Good morning. Thank you all for joining us here today. We're here today to explain the costs associated with not having a budget. There's been lots of discussion about this, but we want to clarify the role in the Treasurer's office. As Treasurer, my office invests money on behalf of the state of Illinois. The budget impasse required our office to change our typical asset allocation. And that change meant we missed out on about $7.8 million in investment earnings in the first quarter of this year. Should this impasse continue, it means missing out on about $2.6 million in investment earnings every month, or more than $31 million over the course of the year. And that's $31 million that will have to be found somewhere. $31 million that would have been better off used to open schools, to help with child care for our youth, or assistance for seniors to keep them inside their homes. Now, let me help explain this analysis. State law gives direction to how the Treasurer's office can invest money. That direction has three priorities. The first investment priority is to have money available to pay the state's bills. The second priority is the preservation of capital while investing. And the third priority is to earn a rate of return on our investments. The budget impasse has required my office to alter our preferred investment strategy. Instead of longer-term, higher-yielding investment tools, we've had to move money into shorter-term, less lucrative investments. We've had to do this to make sure cash is available when needed to pay bills. The shift is a direct result of a lack of a budget and new calls for broad, unspecified fund sweeps. This uncertainty rips money out of the pockets of every resident in the state of Illinois, and it especially hurts our most vulnerable. What we need is a budget. A budget is a spending plan. The plan provides guidance on when money is typically or would be needed to be spent. Without this plan, we cannot undertake the appropriate analysis so that we can time our investments to maximize returns while having money available to pay bills. This analysis considers the court orders that have been used to execute approximately 90% of the state budget. However, further court orders for new vendors will add more pressure to shorter-term, lower-yielding investments. Additionally, we also have fund sweeps to consider. Last year, the governor saw it, and the General Assembly granted approval for $1.3 billion in fund sweeps. There again is new talk of such a maneuver, which adds further pressure on asset allocation. Let me be clear on one point. There will be headlines tomorrow that say the state lost $30 million as a result of budget impasse. Our investments did not lose money. The $30 million number represents the amounts we will miss in earnings if this budget impasse continues. We will miss these earnings because we'll have to continue the investment strategy that prioritizes shorter-term, lower-yielding investments rather than our preferred longer-term, higher-yielding investments. These are opportunity costs, and missed opportunity costs hurt real people. And some of those people and organizations are with us here today. First, I'd like to invite up to the podium Ms. Tanika Jennings with Metropolitan Family Services. Tanika?
Thank you, Treasurer. Good morning. My name is Tanika Jennings. That's spelled T-A-N-E-K-A, last name J-E-N-N-I-N-G-S. And I'm with Metropolitan Family Services. I'm here to talk to you about the human impacts and loss of investment in human lives because of the budget impasse. As one of Illinois' first chartered nonprofits, Metropolitan Family Services is a beacon of hope that Chicago area families have relied on since 1857. Since its inception, Metropolitan Family Services has stood for high-quality programs, strong leadership, and fiscal stewardship. From our leadership through rebuilding efforts after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, to our advocacy in helping pass the Social Security Act during the Great Depression, to growing our client base by 54% in the last 5 years, whenever challenges arrive, Metropolitan Family Services is there to answer the call. Each year, we provide empowering education, economic stability, emotional wellness, and empowerment or legal aid services to 68,000 Chicago area families stemming from Chicago, suburban Cook, and also in DuPage County. We operate our services through 7 community centers and dozens of satellite locations throughout the area. Each year, we also supplement the good work of our programs with $5 million of additional private fundraising. By the end of FY16, on June 30th, Metropolitan Family Services will be owed $2.6 million from the state of Illinois. In order to keep our core services open, we've been forced to tap our own credit lines and serve as an involuntary lender to the state. All year long, the low-income families that we serve in our communities and nonprofit providers like Metropolitan Family Services have suffered footing the bill for problems that we did not create. Our agency already made the painful decision in March to cut 3 programs. We cut Acute Community Services, All Our Kids, and Parents as Partners, which is a home visiting program. If payment is not received by June 30th, we will unfortunately have to close 4 additional programs, including SILA, or Community Integrated Living Arrangement, which provides medication, wraparound services, and housing to some of our most vulnerable residents in Illinois who suffer from mental illness. We'll also be forced to close Safe from the Start, serving young children who've been exposed to violence or trauma at an early age. We'll be forced to close our Southwest Side and North Side Healthy Families home visiting programs. And we'll be forced to close Mental Health Juvenile Justice, which helps teens who've had contact with the system not recidivate and get reintegrated well into the community. Altogether, more than 800 of our clients will lose their services and 30 jobs will be lost. The lack of a state budget is really a structural failure. We strongly believe it's hurting our economy. It's definitely causing pain to thousands of families across Illinois, and it's causing irreparable harm to the communities served by agencies like ours. Thank you.
Great. Sneaka, thank you very much. Next, I'd also like to invite up Simone Kohlinger with AIDS Foundation of Chicago. Simone?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Simone Kohlinger. I'm the Senior Vice President of Programming with the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. My first name is Simone. My last name Kohlinger is Koehlinger. AIDS Foundation of Chicago is a nonprofit organization that works to create equity and justice for people living with or vulnerable to HIV and other chronic diseases. Last year, we signed a contract with the state of Illinois to provide housing support services to highly vulnerable, chronically homeless individuals and families. The state had agreed to support a portion of our housing program that serves clients living in 140 apartments and homes. They have multiple medical and behavioral health conditions and are in need of intensive support to remain healthy and to remain housed. Our housing program is proven to improve lives. So not only is it the right thing to do, it also saves our communities and our state money. Because these clients have a dedicated case manager who helps them access medical care and other critical support services more efficiently, clients are healthier, they're living independently, they're less likely to make unnecessary emergency room visits or be hospitalized for a condition that's preventable. For 11.5 months, we and our partners have continued to provide these life-saving services to the neediest of residents. We fulfilled our promise, and as of today, the state has failed to support the needs of these vulnerable clients. We have not been reimbursed, and as of today, the state owes us over $630,000. As a result of this impasse, we have had to divert precious funds and energy otherwise dedicated to our larger mission of preventing HIV and caring for people living with HIV to address this crisis that was not of our making. The gridlock has created an unbelievable environment of stress and uncertainty for our staff and for our clients. We have remained dedicated and focused on our commitment and what we believe in, our mission, but we cannot operate in this manner indefinitely. Around us, other service agencies are strapped and challenged to keep serving the clients and ultimately keep their doors open. We urge the governor and the legislature to pass a budget and fulfill its responsibilities and their responsibilities to the people of Illinois. Thank you.
Simone, thank you very much. Tanika, thank you. I think we'd be happy to answer any questions.
To clarify on the investment losses or the earning costs for opportunity costs, it was 7.8 million in the first quarter of the calendar year 2016?
Calendar year 2016.
Okay, and so
Correct.
2.6
So this is analysis based on January, February, and March of this year versus January, February, and March last year, our investment strategy at the time.
great, and then so 2.6 million a month, and then is it more than 31 million for the year going forward, like FY17?
Yeah, projected going forward if there is not action taken. Yes.
You are of the same party as Mr. Madigan.
Mhm.
He announced that he's not going to hold a session tomorrow to talk about this, yet you're up here saying, we need this budget. Is there a communication disconnect there, or is your office just wanting to make clear your goals? Where do you...
So I think that everyone involved in this budget has to understand what's at stake, what it's costing the state, in terms of less money coming in than we could bring in, and what it's costing organizations like Metropolitan Family Services or the AIDS Foundation of Chicago.
Do you think
But,
lawmakers should be there tomorrow? Is what I'm asking, working on this.
but we understand how legislation is passed. The legislature comes back in, they come in to take action on a bill. There's right now no bill. There are working groups working towards that. Those working groups should continue to meet. The legislative leaders and the governor or his representatives should be actively working to do this, and good legislative leaders are in touch with their members, taking their pulse, seeing what they can pass, so that when they come back, they don't just come and sit around and waste their time. So I think it'd be helpful if people are sitting down across the table, talking face to face, but I'm not sure you accomplish that with 180-some people sitting around a table.
What could they possibly be talking about now? I mean, they know what the issues are. They've known them
Yeah.
for over a year. You used to be a legislator
Mhm.
yourself. Well, there's a lot of skepticism that this is a delay tactic. At least that's what the governor is saying publicly.
Well, I think it's clear. If they came together and sat down and just worked on a budget solution, I think they'd get it worked out in a day or two. There's general agreement on what needs to happen in a budget. Last year, legislative leaders and the governor sat down and worked out a general agreement on a budget. There need to be new revenues and there need to be cuts. But the governor has insisted on other agenda items he wants to see passed as well, and that's been the real problem. Now, you can want those, but what we want to do is highlight the longer there is a battle of wills, the longer people hold out and delay, the more it costs the state.
So you take the speaker's side in this.
Well, I think both sides need to come together and work this out, but I think you need to focus first on the budget. You know, the credit rating downgrade that's also going to cost the state more money is troubling, but especially so because it is so avoidable.
Are you then saying that you are not supportive of a stopgap budget? You were just critical of fund sweeps and the ways proposed by the governor with sweeping the north funds?
Well, I don't think that's the proper way to go forward. It's nice to have something in place, but something in place so that we can actually plan. When we came in, we were making investments as long as 5 years. But if we put that money in, and then the ultimate solution is a $4 to $5 billion in fund sweeps, that money has to be available. According to state law, that's our first investment priority, having money available to pay bills. That would then cost us money to get out of those investments early. That's what's necessitated our change in strategy that's costing the state money. As I frequently tell people, you know, we're a revenue generating office. For every dollar we spend, we bring in about $28 to the state of Illinois. When we're able to do our job, you have a virtuous cycle. That we do our job, more money comes in, it makes the job of the General Assembly easier. What we have right now is a vicious cycle because we're not able to do our jobs, because other organizations are laying people off. There's fewer tax dollars coming into the state, which just means the ultimate solution will mean more in taxes being raised or more in cuts to things like education or important social services like helping our seniors and people with disabilities.
Treasurer Frerichs, why are we only hearing from you now? And the impasse has been going on for a year now.
We've been trying to work with the governor and the General Assembly in the past. Last September, we issued a letter telling them that this was likely to happen, that we were at that point looking at changing our investment strategy. It apparently fell on deaf ears.
Without in any way making light of this situation, I've sat through a dozen or so press conferences with similar
noise at this point?
Well, that's what we're trying to do here today, is let people know that there are costs associated with this budget impasse. I think two.
Every press conference, and
Sure.
not to make,
Yeah.
understand you have limited options, but
Yeah, there are limited options. But I think people have maybe grown complacent. Many people have said, well, we've made it now in our 12th month without a state budget. Why do we need something right now? Well, some people have made it for a while because they've been able to borrow. But I think we're hearing from people today is that can only go on so long before programs are ended, before doors are shut, before people are laid off. No, we have vendors here in the state who do this work not to make money. They do it as part of a mission. People are called to this because they want to help people. That makes the state more efficient in providing these services when we work with partners like this. But they signed up to be vendors for the state of Illinois. They didn't sign up to be lenders. These are not bankers. It's not what they want to do. It's not what they should do. But that's what we're forcing them to be. Essentially, organizations lending money to the state of Illinois.
In layman's terms,
Bill.
how do you know for sure that you've made more money for the state in long-term investments than the short-term investments you're pledged to do?
Sure. It's very simple. I'll try and explain it in easy terms. If you have money that you want to save, let's say for your child, you can put that money into a checking account, you'll get no interest. You can put it in a simple passbook savings account, and you get a little bit of interest. You can put it in a CD, and you have a higher interest. But you have to commit to keeping it there a longer time. We can't commit to keeping our money there for a longer time. Without those longer time frames for planning, we get a lower interest rate and less money comes in.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You're the chief investment officer for the state commission of credit downgrade. Illinois is borrowing more than $500 million on credit.
June 16th.
Would you invest in the state of Illinois? I mean, is the chief investment officer, would you invest in the state that has no budget, has almost junk credit rating? And if so, why? If not?
Well, I would say that I still think Illinois remains a good investment. If you look at our state overall, in terms of our industries, in terms of lots of strengths we have, it's a good investment. Also because Illinois pays our bond payments first. So I think you'll get paid. The other reason to consider making an investment is because you'll get paid a higher premium investing in Illinois than you will in other states. And that's a result of this inaction and a lack of a budget. It was clear this latest downgrade was a result of not having a budget now going into our second year. Clearly avoidable. And just as I come up here today to talk about how we are missing out on opportunity costs to invest at higher interest rates, when we go out and issue bonds with a lower credit rating, we are going to ultimately pay more money for that. That's also money that's coming out of the taxpayers of the state of Illinois. I mean, and to explain that in a way people understand, most people understand their credit rating score. If you pay your bills late, if you don't pay your bills, your credit rating goes down. And when you go out there to borrow money, the credit card company will charge you a higher interest rate, the bank will charge you a higher interest rate on a mortgage, or they won't lend to you at all. And that's what's happening because the state of Illinois has not paid our bills in a timely manner, has not paid certain bills. We've not demonstrated the fiscal discipline that financial institutions want to see.
But seriously, if you were not treasurer and you were a bond buyer, you would invest in state of Illinois bonds?
Yeah, I think our bonds are still a good deal because they're backed by the full faith and credit of the state of Illinois, because they're the first ones being paid. They'll be paid, the bondholders will be paid long before these social service agencies will be paid. I think the better question to be asking is, if you were someone who believed in this mission, but had hundreds of people who relied upon you for their jobs, would you enter a contract with the state of Illinois? That's the tougher question.
So you're saying that there's no deal, they should not do any more fund sweeps? Is that also correct?
Well, I think the preferred path everyone would consider would be a full year budget for fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 17.
It does not sound
If
like that is anywhere near on the table right now.
it's not on the table because certain people have said they're not prepared to do that.
Right, but so.
That does not mean they can't change their mind or there can't be enough pressure put on them.
But so just dealing in reality, what would be the best path forward today? Given that.
I will deal in reality. You can question my view of reality, but the best path forward is to pass 2 one-year budgets. And you say it's not reality. The state of Illinois has been around for we're nearing 200 years. For 200 years, We've done annual budgets. It has happened. It can happen. The only reason it's not happening is because some people don't want it to happen.
So I'm saying, taking into account the political circumstances, what would be the best path forward? Would a stopgap budget, if it included fund sweeps, be better than nothing?
I will reiterate that a 2 one-year budgets would be the best path forward, but that a stopgap would be preferable to doing nothing.
What, do you have the estimate of the fiscal year? What's the next
So if we go another cycle and we go at this rate, about $31 million.
already?
No, we started making changes last July when it's clear a budget wasn't happening. And we started getting out of some of our positions, our longer term positions as they came available. You can't just make these changes overnight because we are committed to certain periods. But we've did our analysis starting January of this year through March of this year. So the number going backwards is a little smaller, but going forwards we can say if we go a year without a budget in place, without, calendar year or fiscal year, if we go a full year without having a budget in place, and we cannot make these longer term investments because there's no certainty and we don't know when the money is needed to pay bills, then the state would lose out on $30 million. Now, in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at budgets in the 30 billions of dollars, that's not an awful lot. But when you look at agencies and the value they provide to the state, in terms of people's lives, $30 million would go a long way to helping just 2 of these agencies up here today.
But you're saying that $30 million, in order to earn that $30 million, you would have to tie this money up for years on end. And the state doesn't have any money.
Well, the state has money. The state does not have a budget. So we focus an awful lot on the general revenue fund. Now that is cash strapped. But we're in charge of managing all of the state's investments. The state has over 700 different funds out there with fund balances, around $12 billion in fund balances. And that's how the state can say we'll ultimately balance this budget with fund sweeps. They will take money from funds that were not meant to be spent on general revenue funds, funds that had dedicated purposes, but will say we will change our original intent. I think one of the reasons you see a constitutional amendment to protect the road fund is because in the past there's been a lot of money there. Past General Assemblies, and I think recently they've looked at that and said, well, we can take that money to balance the budget. General Assembly can do that. They can do that if they pass a bill. But if you do that over and over again, you asked a question about the value of investing in Illinois. One of the reasons Illinois is a good investment is because of our infrastructure. We're located centrally in this country. We have great rail lines coming through. We have great airports. We have large numbers of interstate miles of roads. But if we do not maintain them, they are no longer an asset. They're no longer something people look at as an advantage and reason to invest in Illinois. So we need to maintain those. So these fund sweeps sound nice when you just call them fund sweeps. When you realize you're taking money away from other priorities the state has put forward, it's not the preferred path going forward.
Is it such a good idea to go to the bond market and borrow more money this month when the state is virtually insolvent?
I've sent a letter to the governor's office earlier this year and then just this week saying as much. That before we go out and pay inordinate interest rates on bond payments, let's settle our budget first. Let's get our credit rating more in line to where it should be. And then we still do need to make investments in infrastructure. But we can make them with decreased costs in interest payments. That, I think, is the better path forward.
BlackRock, the world's largest money manager, said that Illinois maybe shouldn't be allowed to borrow. Maybe the market should deny them access. What do you think of that?
I said, I still think Illinois is going to pay back our bonds. But I'm up here today because I'm tired of the press conferences coming through here stating the problems the state, the lack of inaction is causing. And I think that's what they want to do is to wake some people up and get the state moving forward.
Do you have an idea of how much interest has been paid on bonds, on deals by the state at this point, and how much could have been, is there numbers that you know?
It would depend how far you want to go back. The state of Illinois has issued debt for lots of different things. We could work on that, but that analysis would take a while. It's a significant amount of money.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you all.